One person moving both quick and slow is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom this morning spoke great length about Greenland, and we're going to play the whole thing for you. Right away to Keith Sturman. This is a long soundbite, but it perfectly encapsulates the anger and outrage that Europe feels, but at the same time, the recognition that if they fight with Donald Trump, they'll probably lose. And so they're looking for a way to make a principled stand without causing a rupture in NATO. He's got them by what we say in England are called the bollocks. Mr. PM.
On Greenland, the right way to approach an issue of this seriousness is through calm discussion between allies. And let's be clear, the security of Greenland matters. And it will matter more as climate change reshapes the Arctic, as sea routes open and strategic competition intensifies. The High North will require greater attention, greater investment, and stronger collective defence. The United States will be central to that effort, and the UK stands ready to contribute fully alongside our allies through NATO. But there is a principle here that cannot be set aside, because it goes to the heart of how stable and trusted international cooperation works. And so any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. That right is fundamental, and we support it. Denmark is a close ally of the United Kingdom and of the United States, a proud NATO member that has stood shoulder to shoulder with us, including at real human cost in recent decades. Alliances endure because they're built on respect and partnership, not pressure. That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong. It is not the right way to resolve differences within an alliance. Nor is it helpful to frame efforts to strengthen Greenland's security as a justification for economic pressure. Such measures hurt British workers, British businesses, and the British economy. And that is why I've been so clear on this issue.
Connecting his failure to get the Nobel Prize with what he's doing. He says, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant. This is pissing off a lot of people. Now, lastly, before we go to Embassy and Larry for their thoughts on how this is going to be resolved, if you were, we showed Sturmer at the top, bookending the reaction from the world. The Wall Street Journal editorial page is against this. The New York Post editorial page is against this. Many members of Congress are against this. All of Europe is against this. All my friends who spent the weekend in Europe are sending me sob emails about how they're so embarrassed. I told them to put Canadian flag decals on their backpack, and they can say they're from Canada. Here is speaking on behalf of planet Earth, ladies and gentlemen, the spokesman for the opposition, the resistance, the anti-Trump, pro-NATO position. 109, please.
You know, White Houses sometimes can become one-ball jugglers. All this energy on Greenland comes at a cost to somewhere else where you're not focused. Japan and Korea got together, and the United States was the missing party. China, if you look at the testimony by the head of Indo-PACOM, is very aggressive about the Philippines, a treaty ally country, and the United States isn't at full value. Our military was not in the Mediterranean and not in the region because they're all in the Caribbean. So, you know, you have to allocate resources based on strategic opportunity. We are not going to invade Greenland, and we're not and never should pay a full price for something the country with Denmark and the rest of the EU will give you basically for free. They want a closer relationship with the United States. So to me, this is, again, an example, glaring example of why Donald Trump's companies all went bankrupt, because he's a rotten businessman.
All right, big windup for now for our two geopolitical strategists to solve this. Yamasi, how does this end?
How does it end with Grenada?
Oh well,
Yeah,
let's do
exactly.
let's do Greenland first. We'll do Grenada later in the show.
I want to invade Grenada again. That
Yeah,
was fun.
That worked out. How does this end?
warmer.
Is it whimper, bang? Are there going to be tariffs? How does this end?
I think there will be tariffs, but I think this subsides, that we come to some kind of agreement. I believe that this is a nothing burger, but not in the fact that Greenland itself is a nothing burger. I think Greenland matters. That big, huge, beautiful chunk of ice does matter when it comes to China's economic encroachment, Russia militarization. Those things matter. They do not matter enough for us to take it on. I think, I've mentioned before, Congressman Randy Fine has a wackadoodle bill where he wants to make Greenland another state. I think there are so many opposing sides to this. The congressional delegation that was led by Senator Chris Coons that went over there had a really good conversation. I think even Senator Kennedy said that it would be crazy to have any kind of U.S. invasion of Greenland. His language was incredibly specific, but I just don't think that there's the kind of support behind him that there has been in situations like a Venezuela. And frankly, people are more comfortable with our NATO allies. So I think this all ends in a little bit of a whimper. I think it's more ego driven.
Okay, and how long before it's resolved? Weeks, months?
However long the president wants to play this game.
All right, Larry,
Maybe stop us. Who knows?
Larry, when and how?
When and how? How is through negotiation, which is what we're witnessing right now. It's out in the open and public for us all to see. There were some key concessions there in Keir Starmer's remarks, if you can stay awake through them, not least of which he conceded that the security here and Greenland's role in securing this hemisphere is vitally important. And that was something that was not even discussed for the last 4 or several years. Greenland is vital. It is important. We need to secure it. We need to keep China and Russia away from it. The only question is, how are we going to get there? And that's what this negotiation looks like right now. And it's ugly, and people don't like the language being done. When? I'd say by the middle of this year, we're going to either have. I don't think we're taking ownership of Greenland, but I think that we are going to have much increased strategic alliances with Greenland, and our presence there will increase, and we'll probably get the rare mineral rights as well. The last time the U.S. acquired territory, it was from Denmark. It was in our hemisphere, and it was strategic for World War I. It was the U.S. Virgin Islands. So it's not unprecedented. The only difference is that this is our hemisphere, and President Trump is going about it in an unorthodox way. There's something shocking. He does everything unorthodox.
All right, I basically agree with you guys, but I do think that if Europe invokes this bazooka, which they might, although I don't think they will, but if they do, it escalates things quite a bit, because then American businesses are going to be really concerned about it. It'll be very disruptive for them.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.